Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Pop Culture Galaxy podcast. I'm Mark Bridge and I'm here with Zach Worsner.
That's me.
And we're continuing with our James Bond retrospective and we're going to talk about Live and Let Die.
When you were young and your heart was an open book. Oh my god, it's so good.
Let's let's talk about the song. Let's talk about the music first. Let's pop things off with the music.
I think if there's one Bond theme that has just like completely transcended its origins, it's that one. I mean, it helps that it's by Paul McCartney, one of the most important pop songwriters who ever lived. But like, the fact that got a Guns N' Roses cover and that both versions of the song are played on the radio to this day.
Right. And not only that, but George Martin did the score, and he's a frequent Beatles collaborator.
Yeah. Produced all their records except for Let It Be.
Right. And I gotta say this, the score in it got some bump to it. Like, it was... Holy shit. I was grooving to the score.
It's a weird score where sometimes I'm like, this is weird. And sometimes I'm like, this is weird, but it's still really good.
Yeah.
It doesn't often fit the tone of the movie, but it's always good. Sometimes it feels like he wrote it and then saw the movie and was like, oh, where should I put this? Put it over here.
Yeah.
But that also makes it kind of 70s in that way, very 70s blaxploitation, where it's just like these big jams going on in the background during innocuous scenes.
Yeah. And I didn't know he produced the Goldfinger song as well. Was it Goldfinger? He also produced George Martin.
That would be news to me, but I believe you if you're telling me.
Yeah, because I was looking up because when I said George, I was like, and they call him the fifth Beatle, I was like, wait, wasn't there a Beatle named George? But that was George Harrison. So I was like, but he worked with the Beatles. So I was looking up some stuff about him, and it mentioned, I gotta find it here. It's the music from James Bond series.
Producer George Martin.
Yeah,
how about that?
Goldfinger and Live and Let Die, and of course although Martin did not produce the theme for second film From Russia with Love, he was responsible for singing of Matt Monro. Signing Matt Monro. Yeah,
and Brian Epstein, he was a Brian Epstein guy. Matt Monro was like a square singer, and it was kind of like, oh, you want the Beatles? Well, yeah, you gotta get Matt Monro also.
Yeah.
We'll let you do the Beatles if you also do Matt Monro. It was one of those. I mean, we still see that now. Like, oh, you want to direct? Oh, Peter Berg, director of Friday Night Lights.
Yeah.
Want to direct this Lone Survivor movie? Fine, but only if you direct Battleship for us.
Right.
Lone Survivor, it's never gonna make any money. Battleship, that's a surefire runaway success. What's the actual reasoning behind that?
Yeah.
And Lone Survivor wound up being a huge hit.
See?
You don't know what happened to Battleship.
Yeah, you see, studios, they don't know shit sometimes. You gotta, Yeah. So, that was the music. I love the score of it, and of course, Live and Let Die, that song. Like, and they managed to. It's funny. They played the song 3 times, I think, in the movie. The opening. Then who was that sung it? The girl. I want to say she's popular. I don't want to say it's the Pointer Sister or anything, but she looked around that kind of. I don't know, but yeah, she sung it.
Zendaya.
Yeah, and then of course you heard it again during the end credits. So they got a lot of mileage out of that song, including using samples of it during the film itself. So yeah, a lot of mileage. I like the score. I really dug it. So then let's start with Vebigi. We got ourselves a new Bond, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh yeah.
Roger Moore.
The most divisive Bond.
Okay, here's what I gotta say about Roger. So when George Lazenby came on, maybe it was just me, but I feel like he was trying to prove that he could be Bond. So you kind of saw a little bit of vulnerability in terms of like thinking of I need to live up to Sean's legacy, right?
There was definitely a lot of Sean imitation.
So you saw a little bit of it, like a little bit of kind of like shakiness. I mean, after the movie went on, the movie's 2.5 hours, you kind of got used to George, right? Opening frame of Roger Moore in this movie, it's almost as if he didn't give a shit what you thought. It's like, I'm not Sean, so what? Get at me. And you saw the confidence from the beginning to the end. So I'll say like you were sold on him as Bond from the beginning, because I guess it was the confident of like not even trying to be Sean, not even I don't care if you like me or don't, I'm my own Bond. And like I said, it could be just me reading a lot into it, but like I saw that in his portrayal of Bond, and he was a different enough Bond that you didn't even think of Sean when he was being Bond. You know what I mean? So yeah.
Yeah, he definitely. And the thing that we'll see with Roger is that it takes him a while to get to where he's comfortable as Bond.
Right.
Like he's definitely trying different things. Like I think that he's very different in this than he will be in The Man with the Golden Gun. And then I think it's The Spy Who Loved Me where he like really nails it and it's just like, this is my Bond. But you can definitely still see traces of that in this and in Man with the Golden Gun.
Yeah.
It's almost like at this point in Bond's career,
right,
he's very confident in himself. There's almost no risk. It's almost a superhero story, and like you see it a bunch of times in this movie where like everyone knows who he is, and everyone, in some ways, it backfires on him because he gets captured like 8 times in this movie, and ambushed at like every corner. Well, it's because he hasn't been to New York, baby. But yeah, it's funny. The exotic locale they go to is Harlem.
Yeah.
It was 73. It's a different time.
And you can tell from the style too and everything.
So 70s.
70s to the max, man.
Every Bond movie is of its time in one way or another. In the 60s, it's because of like the art style of it, like that Art Deco, Adam style.
Yeah.
Brutalist architecture at times. Like let's have a room that's made out of concrete, but there's like just a hole in the ceiling. Genius. And later on you get stuff that's timely in its own way. But Live and Let Die, and but we'll get there. But Live and Let Die especially is just like, this movie is 1973. It's New York. Felix Leiter says, "Get me a make on a white pimpmobile." Yeah.
Oh my God! I laughed when I heard that.
What is it? Take this honky out back and waste her. Like, go on a honky.
Oh God.
So good.
Yeah.
Like you can look like with not with the larger Roger Moore era as a whole, but with this movie, you can look at those moments and either be like, this is the worst thing in the world, or just be like, okay, they're doing it.
Yep.
It's 1973. It's New York City. Everyone's got bell bottoms and hats with big feathers on them.
Yep.
Like, you just, 1970s New York is a place that just does not exist anymore.
No.
Like, you live in the Bronx, I live in Queens, but I'm in the Lower East Side right this second. And I can look outside and I can see stuff, and I can look at archive documentary footage or photos of these same neighborhoods in the 70s, and they look like a different country.
Yep. Yep.
Like New York, people think that they understand how different New York was back then. They don't. Like you can see movies about it, like American Gangster. And American Gangster gets like this much of it.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a.
I think that in that movie, American Gangster, New York is not actually. It doesn't look the way it does. It looks like modern day New York.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's like a production.
Yeah. There's a show on HBO called The Deuce that actually is around that era too.
And that does a really good job.
Yeah. Yeah.
So does the new movie The Kitchen, which even though it's bombing at the box office, it's not getting great reviews. I liked it, but that uses a lot of cool techniques. Like they shot in the city, but then like CGI'd out the street signs and replaced them with like ones from the 70s.
Yeah. Yeah.
Got rid of buildings, and even the crosswalks were different. So it CGI'd out the new crosswalks and replaced it with the old ones. I thought that was a very good depiction of 70s New York. But the point is, like, it's not unless you see a movie that was shot in the 70s.
Yeah.
Even if it's like not a gritty crime thriller, but like you know, Live and Let Die, or even Sesame Street, which was designed for kids who lived in the city.
Yeah, wasn't that movie? Oh my god, with John Travolta. Saturday Night Fever. Yeah, that was in New York, right? Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And it's just a completely different vibe that you cannot replicate.
Yep.
And so from that point of view, because it's so timely, it helped Live and Let Die to hold up, because it's like a time capsule. Where even when it's like a crazy, ridiculous superhero movie with voodoo and
yeah.
We'll get to that.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. I think in the first podcast that what I enjoyed about the Bond films, they're like, a sort of like picture of the period it was made in. Like if you want to look back on how the 60s were, or how the 70s or 80s, each film is like of its time. You know what I mean?
They definitely are, and Live and Let Die more than most.
Yeah. So, Live and Let Die came out in 1973, because we were talking about the 70s, June 27th in the U.S., and July 6th in the United Kingdom. That's weird that it came out in the U.S. first.
Kind of the opposite now, where the movies come out, the Marvel movies always come out early overseas.
Yeah.
And then they make a big deal, they're like, oh, we're coming out a week early in the States. It's like, no, you're not. You're just coming out at the same time as everywhere else.
Yeah. The runtime. The runtime is 2 hours and 1 minute. Budget on this was $7 million. I think that's because On Her Majesty's Secret Service was higher than that though.
Secret Service was the most expensive.
Yeah.
The Diamonds Are Forever was less.
Yeah, I think so.
Or at least it looked like less.
Most
of that money went on charities.
Yeah. Well, actually, no. I think $8 million was Diamond's, but most $2 million out of that was Sean's.
Yeah.
And the box office though was a lot though. 161 million. For Live and Let Die. Yep. And it's big.
It was able to bounce back. I guess it was different because it was 73. It was a different time. But audiences just weren't ready for George Lazenby back in '69. And then when they got Sean back, they were like, "All right, it's time to throw in the towel, Sean." And so they were, I guess, more accepting of a new Bond.
Yeah.
In '73. And part of it could also be just like the times were different. Like in '69, when On Her Majesty's Secret Service came out, like it was the height of the counterculture, and Bond was so square. And in '73, like that was Watergate. That was when Nixon was on his way out. So it could be a time like now, where we see things are so effed up in Washington and with politics. Like we just need a superhero.
Yeah.
And that's what Bond, is, a superhero character who's just like impossible to defeat. He always wins. He always gets the girl at the end, and in the beginning, and in the middle, all over the place. And like we we needed that kind of escapist entertainment
Right.
at that time.
Yeah. It's actually based on the second book in the series too. It's funny. We're on the 8th film, but it's the second book. And yeah, so coming back to direct is Guy Hamilton.
Boo.
Here's what I'll say about this film. It's for me. It's a mixed. It's very cheesy, but at the same time, it's kind of gritty though. And I guess
I gotta admit, I liked it more than I did the last time I saw it.
yeah, it's cheesy and gritty. What really grinds my gear in this one is it really like the whole just shoot Bond in the head and get it over with. It's like 3 times you had the chance to kill him in this movie. I think this one violates it even more than the others because they captured him like 4 times instead of just like it was like, okay, time up to this. Okay, escort him out of here. Okay, feed him to the alligators. Like, oh my god, how many chances are you gonna give him to escape?
Yeah. It's a problem, and between this and Diamonds Are Forever, like the 1-2 punch of these back to back, even though it's a different actor, definitely cemented that reputation. Even though I think that future movies really shy away from it. I'm thinking of a great scene in The Spy Who Loved Me right now that I won't spoil. But is a scene where there's like they try to get on the death trap and he escapes it, but it's one of those like perfect death traps. And it's like, oh, let's actually kill him quickly, but it doesn't work.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is still the era where we're still in the era that is parodied by Austin Powers.
Yeah. See, I'm wondering too, right? Probably not, but I was wondering at the time if people were conscious of that, right? While watching the movie, like whether it's in theaters or whatever. Well, it's only in theaters because I don't think home videos were available at the time. But like, were they watching it and it was like, why didn't they just shoot him? Or would they just, chopping at the bits, just like, oh my god, will they kill him?
If I had to guess, I'd say at this point it was still an inside joke.
I
think that Guy Hamilton in particular liked those.
Right.
I think that he liked those death traps of like, hey, instead of shooting him, let's slowly dip him into a pit of tuna with laser beams attached to their heads.
Yeah.
I would say that by The Spy Who Loved Me, that's when they start acknowledging that at this point the audience has to be in on the joke.
Yeah.
It's tongue in cheek up to that point, and I think that one is the one where not outright comedy or camp. I think that the Roger Moore movies are unfairly accused of being campy, and while they are sometimes, it's not like that's all they are. They are very multifaceted.
Yeah.
Like the Marvel movies. I think that we're seeing that now. Even more than Marvel Fast and Furious movies. Where they're really funny, but they've also got crazy action. Yeah, but they've also got that scene where Vin Diesel thinks he's dying, and then they're like, then Michelle Rodriguez is like, "Don't you die on me, damn it!" And they're like, "Why are you doing this?" But emotional stuff here and there. They're big movies. They've got something for everybody.
Yeah. So Roger Moore, I think he's the first Bond to be featured in the gun barrel.
Yep.
Yeah. So you could clearly see it's him, and not some silhouetted dude. It was like, hey man, I want to be in front of the gun barrel. So that was pretty cool. And another thing too, they went back to the 1:8:5 aspect ratio, which is funny. No longer CinemaScope. What's going on? Why did they? I think maybe it's Guy. He wanted to capture a bigger canvas or something like that.
Maybe because of the tall buildings in New York.
Probably.
Some of that.
Yeah, probably.
That could be some of it. They say that that's part of the reason why they did it with the Avengers.
Yeah.
And like the Hulk standing next to everybody.
But you know what? It kind of, anytime I watch the Avengers, it's like the odd man out. Even though it's the one that really kind of pushed the MCU forward, I kind of wished it was shot in 235. Because I would just see, like, if you were to watch Avengers and watch Age of Ultron, it was just like, one doesn't look like the other, and it's the same director too.
Interesting. It's interesting too because the way that those two movies are shot
Mhm.
are so different.
Yeah,
And the way the first Avengers is shot feels more conducive to something like the wider aspect ratio. And the way Age of Ultron is shot with a lot more handheld stuff.
Yeah.
It's like it would be more conducive to the more vertical aspect ratio. Interesting.
But I mean, it's funny though. Infinity War and Endgame, in reality, their aspect ratio should be 185 because they were using the IMAX cameras. And if you watch it in IMAX, it's more vertical. But then you get them on home video, they're the 235 aspect ratio, and the I don't think the 185 is available anywhere. Maybe in Europe somewhere.
It's a little disappointing because I do plan on buying Endgame on Blu-ray.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I hope that it fills up the whole screen since
Yeah.
that would give us a little bit closer. You know, we can't get IMAX without being cropped. Right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, because I'm not as much of an expert, but if you were watching a full IMAX frame on the widescreen TV,
You would
have bars on the side?
You would have 2 bars on the side. Yes.
You would have bars.
So the closest they get to an IMAX is when they just shift it to 185, which you don't really lose all that much screen anyway.
But I don't like it when anything's cropped.
Yeah.
Like if you have to give me giant bars on the side, but it's the way that they shot it.
Yeah.
It's the author's intent.
Mhm.
Then I'm in.
Yeah.
But you know, I do wonder why they went for the more vertical screen for Live and Let Die. Just because I wonder if it was just a budget concern.
You're right.
Like, we can go to Jamaica or we can get widescreen. Your choice.
So yeah, shooting locations. They went to Jamaica for some shots. They went to New Orleans for the funeral and the boat chase sequences. Where else did they go? Pinewood Studios in England.
City, baby.
Yep. And this movie I put, because I had some notes too. I put this movie film did the three women quota. the woman in the beginning, which the French lady, I don't remember her name. Who played that?
Russo.
Yeah. She is in the beginning. Then you had Rosie, played by
Poor Rosie.
Gloria Hendra, and then
Pretty afro.
and then of course Solitaire, Jane Seymour. Here's the thing about Jane Seymour. I didn't know she was in a Bond movie until later in life, because the thing I knew her for was Dr. Quinn, Medicine Woman, which I love that show. Don't remember shit about it because I was watching it at the time when it was coming out in Jamaica. All I remember is that she had, she had kids, but then she had a boyfriend, and it's in the Old West, so that's what I remember. But yo, in this movie, she's so gorgeous, like holy shit.
She's very attractive.
Yeah. And it's almost like she doesn't look like herself. Yeah, I noticed that about some of the women.
Did they darken her a little bit in this movie?
Well,
'Cause she's not remotely black, but she looks like they might have exotified her features a little bit to make her look a little more.
I mean, she might have gotten a tan when she went to Jamaica, so, and of course they put a lot of makeup on her face, that really sort of exotic, gypsy-esque look about her. So yeah, I would say that kind of really changed the way how she looks. I was watching the behind the scenes too, and it was really good about this behind the scenes, that they had more behind the scenes footage than the other films.
Yeah, we're starting to get to the era where they actually
Yeah.
cared to save some of that footage. Hey, maybe someone will find this interesting someday.
Yeah, so you actually saw them when they were in Jamaica, just lounging around, having fun, and I was watching Jane Seymour, and I was like, oh my god, she's so good.
And apparently, the legend is that they wanted to get a black actress for that role. Apparently, Diana Ross.
Yes.
Was in contention for that. But then at the last minute, the producers balked because they were like, "Is it too soon for a black Bond girl?" And we're all like, "Nah, dude. Bond's gotta bang everyone."
Yeah. So they wouldn't consider Rosie a Bond girl because she died, I guess.
Well, I like that. Even that was considered a big deal.
Yeah.
At the time. And I'm like, it would have been such a it's already a statement and a symbol of like the 70s being the like. I don't remember if we've talked about this before, but I think that the 70s was the coolest decade to be black.
Yeah. Yep.
Like, if you were black in the 70s, you were automatically cooler. Like, it was considerably less dangerous than being black in the 60s. And it was, well, because, like, you get beat up.
Right.
At least. And it became, like, whites tried to become cool in, like, the 80s with, like, Reagan and the shirts with the collars that are white and the other parts of the shirt are, like, blue or whatever, and Wall Street and all of that.
Yeah.
Slick back hair, it's like, go kill yourself. But, like, fucking Donald Trump Jr. But, the 70s was, like, because I was listening to, a lot of music, like AM music from the 70s, and so many bands that I thought were black were not black.
Right.
Like Redbone, who do the song at the beginning of Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yes. Yeah.
Like, I was like, yeah, I don't know that band. Who are they? Because I'm like, of course they're black. They sound very black. And then I look it up, and like, they're a bunch of white dudes with perms. And I'm like, there you go. So many of those bands, like, they're not really yacht rock, but like that AM top 40 style.
Yeah.
Like, you can't tell what race they are.
Yeah.
And that's really cool to me. If the girl that Bond wound up with for the whole movie was black, that would be really cool. And so, even though it is really cool that he winds up with one, and she has an awesome, extremely black afro.
Yep.
Which is very awesome.
Even though it was a wig.
Oh, it was?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But they're usually afros, I hear. They're usually wigs, I hear.
Yeah.
Allegedly. But they, it could have been so much more than it was, and it was already such a big moment.
Right.
For Bond and for race relations. But then what sucks is that it wouldn't be until friggin' 2002 that he gets down with another sister.
Yeah. Here's the thing too about this movie. A lot of black actors in this movie, but most of them were primarily villains.
It's also got that great like montage, pretty much, where every single black person in the city is part of Mr. Big's gang.
Yeah, right. And then there was the guy, Mr. Big, came out and was like, wait, that guy looks familiar. But it turns out Mr. Big was actually the main bad guy, and he ripped his face off.
I didn't notice you with your eyebrows. Very exotic makeup there, buddy.
Yeah, right. So, going through the cast, well, there's no Q in this one.
Yeah, I don't know why.
Maybe it was because most of it was shot in New York and New Orleans. He couldn't make the trip. Maybe, I don't know.
He would have made the trip. Maybe they were just like they thought that maybe they leaned on him too much or something, or wanted to mix it up.
But they end up using one of his equipment, though. I mean, well, it's his watch. It's James's watch, but he asked Q to fix it for him, and it turns out to be magnetic.
Yeah, and it's got like that cool blood saw.
Yeah.
And the magnetic, when he undoes the dress in the beginning.
Oh yeah,
Like,
yeah. That
it's
was
really hot.
that was
I want that so bad. If I could have one Bond gadget, that'd probably be the one.
yeah.
That'd be the most romantic thing ever.
But Bernard Lee's back as M, and Louis Maxwell, she came back as Miss Money Penny. Still looking pretty.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We only get a little bit of Money Penny and Bond in this one.
Mm-hmm.
Partly because her scene is while the girl's in the closet.
Yeah, yeah.
But they have a good rapport together.
Mm-hmm.
Her and Roger Moore. Basically, what I'm saying is that Lois Maxwell is like super good at being flirty with anybody.
Different Felix, David Hedison.
Yep. And this will be the first Felix who will reprise his role.
Oh, he's gonna come back for the next one.
Nope.
Oh.
He'll come back in License to Kill.
Oh.
Which is really weird because the one before that, The Living Daylights, has Felix, but he's played by yet another actor. I don't think Felix returns again until then, actually.
Probably.
I think that this might be Felix's last appearance for a while.
Yeah. Roy Stewart, Coral Jr.
That's so funny. because this was before Dr. No.
Yep.
The book.
Mm-hmm.
And Marla gets killed in Dr. No. They were like, should we have a new character? Yeah. Should we make him Quarrel? Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Quarrel Jr.
Coral Jr. Isn't it a little bit...
Continuity. It's continuity.
Yeah.
It's continuity.
Yeah. Isn't he a little bit too old to be Coral Jr.?
Yeah.
Alright, whatever. Maybe. Then we got well, Kanaga, he's Mr. Big as well, but he's also Dr. Kanaga. He's played by Yaphet Kotto.
Yeah, Alien.
Yeah, right?
Midnight Run.
Alien is 79, right? So he hasn't done Alien yet. But yeah, he plays a good villain. I like him. He's pretty good. He's pretty good.
He's such a good actor. Probably one of the most underrated actors of all time.
Mm-hmm.
Also, really hated the script of this movie.
He did.
Did interviews talking about how there was so much stereotypical nonsense in it that he hated,
Mm-hmm.
and had to really dig into himself to make the character compelling.
Mm-hmm.
And was just like, at least from his point of view, felt that it was almost like a minstrel show.
Mm-hmm.
That it was like, oh, this is just like a black caricature.
Yeah.
And he's not wrong in some degree, but his performance
Mm-hmm.
elevates it. Because this movie is not really cited as being, offensive,
Mm-hmm.
like in a dated way that some movies from this time are.
Yeah, like this movie, if it was released today, oh my god, it would have been so offensive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there are some parts of this obviously that don't age well, that don't hold up, but partly because of just the jolly vibe of the movie,
Mm-hmm.
like the way it's even when they're villainous people, it like kind of just has like a positive energy to it,
Mm-hmm.
where it's like we're just having a good time, man. And Yaphet Kotto is so good in this role. Like, I wish that this movie had been made later.
Right.
Because I think that if it had been done when Bond was like back,
Mm-hmm.
it would have done. It could have been a lot better.
Yeah, I mean, when he was Dr. Kananga, he didn't have he spoke like a regular dude, like a regular villain, not with the jive talk or anything like that.
Well, yeah, like the jive talk was definitely a cover.
Yeah, when he was Mr. Big, when he was like, who's this mother... Yeah. But speaking of which, do you think they were teasing the idea that they wanted this to be rated R? And they, at the end of the day, they went back at it? Because there was a lot of F-bombs bleeped out, though, that they were about to drop in this movie.
I don't know.
And I think it could be the first one to say shit. I don't remember hearing shit in the others.
I forget. Is it shit or is it shit?
No, it was the lady in the airplane when he was about to hit the two wings off, and she was like, "Holy shit!" And yeah.
Yeah, it's a good moment.
Yeah, so I think this is the first Bond movie to use shit, but like, there's even, you know, and we'll get to him later, the hit guy, those like, damn Billy Bob, that guy.
Oh God.
You know, he was like, he actually dropped the F bomb. He dropped the F bomb, but the horn of the car bleeped him out, and there's a couple of moments like that happened.
And that might be also part of what helps the movie in the long run.
Mm-hmm.
Like that character, a sheriff, whatever the hell his name is, the redneck guy.
Yeah.
is portrayed as so negatively that it kind of
Sheriff Pepper.
Pepper.
Yeah, Clifton James, played by Clifton James.
That it kind of counterbalances any potential negative implications of black characters.
Mm-hmm.
That it's like, no, we're making fun of this guy too, so it's okay.
But like, here's the thing though, even though he called James Bond boy, so I guess you were like, all right, maybe he's not being racist, but like, every time a black character hey boy, and even his cousin Billy Bob, or his brother-in-law Billy Bob, when the black guy came up to him, was like, what do you need, boy? I'm getting ready to leave here.
It's so, and like the fact that they're portrayed, that, you know, Pepper is portrayed as extremely stupid.
Yeah.
Like, it works to the movie's favor. It's like, this is not supposed to be an actual commentary on race relations.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know, like these days, you know, everything is taken super seriously on the internet.
Mm-hmm.
Or like, if you're trying to crack jokes at other people's expense, even if you are punching up,
Mm-hmm.
People will still get, you know, infuriated, because why wouldn't they? They just love the attention and might get them a few likes or follows.
Mm-hmm.
But like with, you know, Live and Let Die, they're like, let's just have fun, dude.
Mm-hmm.
And this predates Smokey and the Bandit.
Right. Yeah. Right.
One of the greatest movies of all time.
Mm-hmm.
Where the lead villain in that is just the most hilariously over the top, racist, insane Jackie Gleason, Oscar-worthy performance.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if the Academy had any balls, they would have given Jackie Gleason an Oscar for that movie. But that's a whole other thing. Yeah, the James Bond in general doesn't necessarily like You Only Live Twice, super freaking racist, that one part. But you know, where he's dressed up in yellow face. But Live and Let Die, I think I would go not racist.
Yeah. It was just it's just funny that because it's just all the black characters in it, most of them are villains, and then there's the whole portrayal of the whole voodoo part. I will say this: if I saw this movie back in the 70s, or even no, screw that. If I saw this movie right around the time when I was a kid, this movie would scare the shit out of me.
Oh yeah. He shoots Baron Samedi and he like blows up into like ceramic.
Yeah, and not even just that. Like the beginning with the whole funeral procession, and they kill the guy, and then they just put the coffin over him and then move it, and it's like, oh my god, I do not want to go to New Orleans. Sorry, you can keep New Orleans.
Yeah, it's scary. They should wash that whole place away with the flood.
Oh shit.
Oh god. I'm so sorry. Anyway.
So, but yeah, so you have, so the voodoo guy, what was his name?
Baron Samedi.
Yes, Baron Samedi, played by,
Super tall, skinny guy, Chris Tucker.
no. I have Jeffrey Holder. And then you have T. T.
He is so good.
Julius. He's always is that why they call him T? Because he's always laughing and smiling. Because every scene he's like,
Yeah.
come on.
He's a Hitler. He likes it. He likes it. He's having a good time.
Now,
His little metal arm.
yeah. So that I remember seeing at least some stuff when I was younger, but not really watching them. And I remember the metal arm, like that was scary. But yeah, Teehee.
Like red, like that red
Yeah.
suit jacket he wears. It's cool. Like this movie has a lot of like. I will not say that Live and Let Die is a good movie,
Mm-hmm.
but it's got so many things that add up.
Yeah.
Like as a whole, no, this movie is not good. But
Mhm.
that part's so good. That part's so good. I
Yeah,
love
yeah.
that guy with that stunt, the alligators. Oh my god.
Yeah.
Like we'll get there.
Yeah.
But it's like death by 1,000 cuts in a good way.
Mm-hmm. Do you think this movie had too many villains?
I'd say, well, if I could, if it were possible to re-edit this movie to get rid of all the voodoo nonsense.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, not nonsense if that's what you believe in, because you have to be respectful of different religions.
Yeah, because what did that serve though? What the whole what?
It served to make white people scared of black people.
That's what I'm saying. Like, what is Baron? What is he? What is his purpose there? Like,
He's like a henchman.
yeah, like Tahiti is a good henchman. He did work. But what did Baron do other than scare folks? And he wasn't even the one to kill the dude in the beginning with the snake. He was another guy.
Yeah, like you could see Kananga just being like, "Here's my henchman, he and the voodoo god of death."
Like that, he served no purpose at all. And then, of course, at the end, where you see him, like, ha 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 ha, ha, it's like, oh, that's corny,
What a stupid ending.
right?
Just on the back of the train, James Bond will return.
Yeah,
Well, hopefully you won't return.
and before, you know, when I saw Mr. Big, I was like, and then we have Mr. Big, but then the second time he saw Mr. Big, he's like, yo, that makeup looks funny, like that guy's dead. What's happening? And then he ripped his mask off. It looked better the first time you saw Mr. Big than the second time you saw Mr. Big. Because the first time, he actually looked like a person.
Right, and then the second time, I guess he has to take it off.
Yeah, yeah. So.
So it's like, it's looser.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you know, I think that this movie is very much like two movies that are stitched together.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know how much of Live and Let Die, the book, is in the movie.
Probably nothing at all.
And I don't know how much of 007 in New York, which I believe it's a short story,
Mm-hmm.
is in the movie.
Right.
But I would imagine, based on just my loose knowledge, that that both movies, or that both stories, serve as the basis for this movie.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know, but like there's definitely like a halfway point. It's like the first half of this movie is 007 in New York.
Right.
The second half of this movie is now it's Voodoo Staff.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
He's with the girl, the super cute. Oh my god, I love her little afro girl. And then Jane Seymour shows up and is like, "It's me."
Yeah.
And then he tricks her into having sex with him, and to this.
Yeah, I felt. Yeah, that's. Yeah, I was kind of conflicted on that one too. You know, because okay, so we don't know if the magic in here is real. They never really went one way or another with it. Like, did she really have clairvoyance? But say she did, right? Say she did, and if she had sex, she would lose it. That's shitty. That was shitty of him to do that.
Yeah, but if she had clairvoyance, she probably would have known about the cards.
So she well, the first 2 times I think she pulled the lover card, it was legit at least. So that was legit.
Right, then he switches.
So the third time is when he had all of the lover card. So I guess at that time it didn't really matter because she already pulled it twice.
And also, let's be real, she was gonna bang him anyway.
Yeah.
It's Bond.
Was that the quickest? He met her. Well, he saw her.
is that the quickest he
Yeah.
was like, hey, I don't know. You know, it happens to everybody.
I mean, the quickest from first meeting. Well, he met her before, but then he said, "I'll be back." But then he met her a second time. But the second time, he was like, "Let's do this," and they banged. I'm wondering, was that the fastest between meeting and doing it?
No. Well, actually doing it, maybe, but he's gotten kisses faster.
Okay.
Or at least will. I'm thinking again of The Spy Who Loved Me. He seduces a woman with his eyes in like 5 seconds.
Well, not a regular girl, but like a Bond girl is what I'm talking about.
A Bond.
Yeah.
Okay,
A Bond girl.
I'm not sure.
Probably, but hey, there was not much conflict there, so to speak.
Nah.
So to speak.
Yeah. But like, kind of with that, it's also like the most awesome atheist thing ever. Be like, your cards are stupid.
Yeah.
Religion is fake.
Yeah. He was doing a whole bunch of eye rolls while he was listening to her talk.
Yeah. And like, it's one of those things where like, when people talk about their energies and their spirituality and whatever, and like, I'm an atheist just sitting there being like, yeah, please continue. That's so interesting. Tell me about how spiritual you are and your energies of the universe and whatever. Oh, this is so amazing. But then you can't say anything because they're like, yeah, you're offending my sensibilities. And it's like, yeah, well, whatever.
Before I forget to comment that she does have a cool name though, Solitaire. I love that name.
Solitaire is a hot name.
I love that name. So then,
not to be too broy, but like Bond brings it out in me.
yeah. But how? Okay, what is this movie about?
It's about Kananga's magical plan to become a heroin kingpin,
Right.
giving out heroin for free.
Free, yeah.
That everyone gets addicted to heroin, and then it doesn't matter.
But why is it Bond's problem? Is what I'm saying.
I think it's a case of he follows the case because of the British the guy who gets killed in the beginning.
Right.
Multiple guys who get killed in the beginning. It's interesting that it's not even in that pre-credit scene.
Yeah.
Which makes it one of the more underwhelming ones because traditionally the pre-credit scenes in Bond movies are usually like those would be the grand finale of a normal movie. And so this one starts out very low key and it takes it never really gets huge. The boat chase, which is so long.
Yeah, it was long.
And it has some good moments here and there, but overall it's not like a big action spectacle. But like, I guess it's Bond is the kind of guy where he uncovers the thing. He investigates one plot, finds out about another plot, and then it's just like, well, since I'm here, I might as well take care of it.
Yeah, right. Because it was like, okay, he's MI6, which means he's supposed to be taking care of international stuff on behalf of His Majesty. And I'm like, okay, it's a drug kingpin trying to flood the market with drugs in America, I assume.
I think that it's just like the 70s, so like drugs were big.
Yeah, so I'm like, why does an MI6 agent care what happens to American local gangsters? It was like, okay, sure, fine.
I guess he always works with Felix, so it's a little bit of cooperation.
Yeah, but Felix is CIA, so he's still also international. Oh well, international drug market.
On behalf of, Felix is probably the one giving out the drugs. But that's a whole other thing.
Yeah.
CIA created the ghetto. Just saying.
Probably. So we have the plot of Bond going finding Kanata, including the fact that as soon as he get to the airport, get in New York, they try to assassinate him by not shooting Bond, but killing the guy who's driving the car. It's like, okay, why just shoot Bond? He's right there. He's right there. Why are you shooting the guy in the front? But of course, Bond escapes, and I guess that's where you get the line. Search for the pimp. That pimpmobile. It was like,
give me a make on a white pimpmobile.
Yeah. Oh my god. And what else? Yeah, Solitaire's telling the Fortune like, oh, he's coming there. So she's basically giving play-by-play of how close Bond is. So that's why they're able to try to intercept him at every turn without shooting him in the head.
It's very much just like one event leads to the next,
Mm-hmm.
leads to the next, and then you're at the end of the movie.
And so let's talk about that Jamaican scene. Well, it's supposed to be New Orleans still, but they shot it in Jamaica at an alligator farm.
Oh my god!
Yeah.
That is like whatever your opinion is on the movie, and mine is not very high.
Mm-hmm.
Even though like I'm very enthusiastic about it, but that's like it's Bond. Like even the bad ones,
Mhm.
like, so I can have a great time with.
Mhm.
Like I even had a good time when we were watching. Well, Diamonds Are Forever, kind of.
Mhm.
But you know, in the moment when I'm watching it, I'm like, it's fine.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But you know, whatever your opinion is on Live and Let Die, just that stunt is one of the greatest stunts ever performed.
Yeah, and they showed the behind the scenes. They showed the 5 times he tried to do it. One of them, he almost.
Freaking foot off.
Yeah, I was like, oh my god. Yo, I'm wondering, right? To be a stuntman, right? I would love to go into the mind of a stuntman.
Scientology.
It's just like, what are they thinking?
They're thinking about Scientology.
They're nuts, man. You thinking about
Fear.
thinking about Tom Cruise?
Thinking about Tom Cruise.
Uh,
I mean, that's why he does it. Him and Will Smith. I mean, After Earth is all about Scientology.
Well, is Will Smith a Scientologist? I thought that was debunked. I don't think.
I thought he was super Scientology.
No, because there was. What happened was Leah Remini, she got on about the Smiths and how they were Scientologists or some crap, and Jada was upset with her, saying, no, we were just hanging out with a bunch of people that it's not really a Scientology party, it was just some misunderstanding, basically. And then later on, Jada had Leah on her show, the Red Tabletop thing they have on Facebook, and they kind of cleared the air as to why they were upset with each other, blah, blah, blah. But, yeah, they're not Scientologists. It was just Leah Remini misunderstanding a situation.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. Well, then why is Will Smith so weird then?
Because he's here's the thing with Will. it's
We need to talk about Will.
yeah, it's a thing with Will where so he's a rapper, right? But not really a rapper. Like he raps but not rap. And then
I like the Because he raps happy.
and then he got a show where he needed to develop some sort of confidence for that show to work, right? In the big growing pains, he was like, you know, you could go back to certain scenes and actually see him mouthing the words of his co-star, like he was just learning. And then, you know, he was a charismatic guy, and then Fresh Prince took off, and then Michael Bay gave him a shot with Bad Boys, and he really took off. So it's like he went from this musician to this television star to this movie star, and I think all of that kind of crafted this worldview. You know, like he got adapted to this environment, right, where he went through several stages of his career. And I think because of that, and because of what he had to do to get there, it almost, I don't want to use the word warped because that's a bad word in this case, but just like conformed his reality to where he can actually do these weird things, where he wants to live his life to the fullest because he figured, look where I started and I'm here. Right? Let's see where the sky's the limit. But I don't think he's that gung-ho as Tom Cruise. Like, you know, he wish he was Tom Cruise when it comes to that. But he is teetering on the edge, especially when he did that whole bungee jumping situation for his 50th birthday or whatever. Like he wants to experience life to the fullest, but I don't think he wants to die. Right? Like
Will Smith.
at the end of the day, Will Smith is still black, right?
No matter how hard you try.
Yeah, right. So black folk, we ain't try to die like that. You know what I'm saying? So that's one thing that's holding him back from going full Tom Cruise, I think. Yeah. And, yeah, and then as far as the whole Scientology thing too, another thing that's really associated with black folk is that we're by nature a very spiritual set of people. So we can't see ourselves praising to no aliens. You know what I'm saying? That'll be an embarrassment to his people. So I don't think he wants to go there. He might have a viewpoint on some theology or something like that might not mix with the regular people's thinking of what God is or what life or energy is. But at the same time, he's not about to worship no aliens. So I don't think he's going that Scientology road. I may be wrong, but I don't think so. So that's my little rant on Will.
So basically, what you're saying is that Will Smith needs to be the next James Bond.
They tried for years to get an American. If they didn't back then, they're not going to now. Especially with Twitter. They'll get.
Yeah, like I would agree. Except, it's funny. The one actor who I really, really want to play James Bond next, kind of made me a believer. So I always get pissed when they get British actors to play American roles. And then they got Henry Cavill to do Superman.
Right.
And I was like, oh my god, he is so good. So now I'm like, they get anyone to play James Bond. American.
Yeah, but it's Twitter. And you know that's funny, right? They get an American to play James Bond. Twitter's gonna go afire. Why? They should have gotten a British person. And it's like, even if you give him with the counter argument, like, okay, but you have British playing Americans, so why can't an American play a British person? It's like, well, look at how Renee Zellweger screwed that all up. No, you know. But I don't know. It is what it is. I think we'll probably get a black person before we got an American playing Bond. I don't think we're gonna get Idris Elba. I think that ship has sailed.
He's too old.
Yeah. We might get. He's a little bit too short.
Aren't you a little short to be a British secret agent?
Yeah. They might go with Chiwetel. He might be young enough to pull it off. Chiwetel Ejiofor.
Chubby.
Just
chubby face.
Put some weight. Get a little bit leaner.
It'll work out.
I don't think it's gonna be Cavill though. If they go with a white guy,
Cavill.
I don't think.
It's gonna be Cavill. It's gonna be him.
Well, the only if The Witcher fails, then I'll see. If The Witcher is a success, he'll be busy with The Witcher. He'll be a lot busy with The Witcher. I think that's.
I bet they're already talking to him. I bet that they use him to get Daniel Craig's price down.
Well, Daniel already said it's his last, isn't it?
Yeah, I know, but I bet that you did it to get his price down for this one.
Oh,
I
right.
want 30 million. And
Oh.
like, we can get Henry.
Yeah,
25 million. We can really get Henry's on the phone. We're calling him now. 20 million. Oh, it's ringing. It's ringing. 2 rings. 3. Okay, 10 million. Okay.
Is that the confirm? Is that to confirm what he got paid for this one? 10?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Probably a lot more than that.
Yeah, probably not. Yeah.
Probably got a production deal.
Yeah. All right. What's his name? George. Sean. Same thing, Sean.
He's gonna do whatever movie he wants.
Yeah.
I mean, that sounds like the way to do it. Like, do whatever movie I want, and I'll do your movie.
Or we'll.
Survivor. That's how you do it.
Yeah. So either they go with Henry or they go with Richard Madden. Probably they go with Richard Madden.
Richard Madden could work.
Yeah.
He's cute.
Yeah.
Maybe a little too cute. but then again, so was Pierce.
We need
I think Pierce
we need a good looking Bond now. We already have Craig for a long time.
The ugly Bond.
You know,
Look at his face.
Craig was the, you know, he's a good looking chap, but
He looks like a Klingon.
in relation relative to the other Bonds, I would say Craig is the ugly Bond.
What if Bond, but like you hit him in the face with a stick 50 times?
Would you call Tiffany? I mean, here, did I say Tiffany? Timothy Dalton. Would you call him an ugly Bond?
Haddish as the first black Bond.
Would you call?
Yes.
Would you call Dalton a ugly Bond or a pretty Bond?
I'd say he's more along the lines of Connery and Craig. But well, Connery had like he was rugged but like super hot. He had like that Harrison Ford style, like Scottish Harrison Ford. Why it worked so well when they played father and son.
Yeah.
But Timothy Dalton's like right in the middle. I think that he's a little more rugged, like Craig style. Like his hair's not pretty. He doesn't have pretty hair like Roger Moore or Pierce Brosnan or Henry Cavill. So I say Timothy Dalton's like right down the middle.
Yeah.
He's got both sides.
Yeah. The one thing that would probably be a drawback for Henry, if he was Bond.
They have to CGI out the mustache.
Not even.
Thank you.
He's a big dude though. He's a big dude. Like, you know, did you see that Witcher trailer?
Yeah.
Like that scene when he's talking to Triss, his biceps alone was bigger than his face.
Yeah, and he has said that he's gonna be big, like as long as he's playing Superman.
Right.
Because he gained weight to be Superman.
Mm-hmm.
Then he had to lose weight to do another movie. Then he had to gain weight again to be Superman again.
Mm-hmm.
And he said it was so hard that he's just gonna stay big.
Yeah, so it's like,
gonna get ready for a role. But like he was really good in another. Cause I feel like he's been auditioning for this forever. Because he did Mission Impossible, and most importantly, he did The Man from U.N.C.L.E.
yeah. I haven't seen that movie yet, but I need to watch it.
It's good.
Yeah.
It's like what if we did a Bond movie with no plot? Like this movie has nothing in it. It's just Henry Cavill and Armie Hammer being cool.
Right.
And like it's good. And
check it out.
It's like kind of like this one, kind of like Live and Let Die, where it's like, what is this movie about? It doesn't matter. He's just being cool. And that's the whole thing.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. Let's see. Like I said, he's a big dude. He'll probably be the biggest Bond.
Yeah, but look, Craig was the first ripped Bond. Like everyone had to be ripped in like 2005. Starting like 2005-ish, everyone had to be ripped if they wanted to be an action star.
Right.
Like, cause Pierce, like all the Bonds up to this point were healthy, but none of them were like jacked.
Yeah, they weren't.
Like Pierce was the size of a regular guy.
Yeah.
You know, he's shirtless, he looks good, but he's not like roid rage. He's not Vin Diesel. Like that's why The Rock can only do like these dumb action movies at this point.
Yeah.
He can't do a real character.
Like,
he's a cartoon.
Yeah, either he's an action movie or he's it's a comedy that's him deliberately playing against his type, I guess. Yeah.
No regular person looks like The Rock.
Yeah, it's weird, right? When you're like that built, you're almost limiting your choices of roles you can play, right?
Yeah, you can't play an accountant.
Yeah.
You can't play like Michael Douglas and Falling Down.
But then at the end of the day, though, I guess the bigger roles, the big like movies now becoming tentpole things where it's like we're doing event pictures now and not regular movies. The regular stuff goes on television. I think maybe that's what they don't care. It's like that's what's selling nowadays. You know, fast.
He's got more than enough money that if he doesn't do another thing in his entire life, he'll be fine. And hey, maybe when he gets old, I mean, isn't he in his 40s already?
Who Rock? Yeah, I think so.
The
yeah.
Rock is the next Bond. Like, you know, when he gets old, maybe he'll let himself go and play like the fat Hawaiian in movies, like in Moana.
Yeah.
But
Nah.
the live action remake of Moana.
I don't think he'll ever get gain an inch of fat, a pound of.
Be like Jack LaLanne would be like 80 years old and still be working out.
Yeah,
Hey,
like even because look at Schwarzenegger. Yeah, he puts on a bit of pound, but that's just old man poundage. But he still look, you know.
Yeah, whenever like you see any kind of stuff with him, his arms are still huge.
Yeah, so I don't think like his body is just so used to working out that I don't think he'll ever stop. He might slow down the older it gets, but it'll just not happen.
Well, and as you can tell from this conversation, there's not a whole lot to say about Live and Let Die.
Yeah.
It's kind of a nothing movie. It's barely even a Bond movie.
Yeah.
Which is part of why it holds up.
Right. The big set piece is a boat chase sequence, right?
Just endless. It has some good moves in it. Just endless boat chase. It's like 10 minutes long.
Yeah, it. That's what I said. I was half and half of this movie. It felt it was a lot of cheese factor in this movie, but because there was, I guess the fact that the villains weren't over the top. I guess. Well, no, they were over the top, but
It blows up.
yeah, but it was.
Why are they blowing them up like that?
Oh, right, like when the little capsule. It was like that's not what would happen to a body if that happened.
I don't know what would happen. I don't want to know, but like, why that? Why'd they do that to him? Because his name is Mr. Big? I don't know.
And then it was like there's a lot of grittiness to it, but it was all set by its campiness as well. You even had the big dude, whisper that holy whispers.
Yeah.
It was like, you want me to open it? What? You want me to open it? I thought it was funny too. It's like when Bond escaped, right? he was saying he escaped or something like that. What did he say? Like he called out Kanada's name. Either said Mr. Big or Kananga. He was trying to call him. He's escaping. And Bond is like hit him in the chest or whatever.
Yeah, like there's so much in this movie that is just so. They didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
With Bond, and they didn't know what to do with a new actor, so like they kind of hedged their bets.
Mm-hmm.
They were like, let's just do everything, but let's have an out, and the out is if the audiences don't respond
Mm-hmm.
to Roger Moore as James Bond, maybe they'll respond to like a voodoo movie, or they'll respond to a blaxploitation movie.
Yeah.
Like, in a way, Bond isn't even the main appeal of the movie.
Yeah, was that around the time blaxploitation started, or was it a little bit later?
Well, it was around the time, but a little tiny bit later.
Yeah, right. So it's like
they saw that it was picking up steam, so they wanted to do one too.
Yeah.
Which is something that you'll see in the next movie as
Mhm.
well,
Mhm.
and a lot just throughout James Bond,
Mhm.
where whenever something gets hip, they'll do it too.
Yeah.
The kung fu movies started to get hip, so there's a kung fu dojo in Man with the Golden Gun.
Mhm.
Star Wars came out, so Moonraker. Batman Begins came out,
So.
Casino Royale.
Mhm.
Dark Knight came out,
So
Spectre and Skyfall.
Skyfall, yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's
The Matrix came out, so freaking Die Another Day.
right. Yeah, I guess, yeah. So some cool behind the scenes info. So the dancer that had the snakes, why did they have real snakes? Oh my god, these guys are just playing with fire. They had real crocs, real snakes, and it's the snake that bit too. I thought it was maybe they kind of devenomed it or whatever. But the guy who had the snake that was dancing got bit. While Jane Seymour was tied up, he ran. The snake was almost at Jane Seymour's feet, ready to bite her until the snake handler grabbed him up.
There's another story about when they're attached to the thing that's gonna drop them into the water or something. I'm not sure if it's that particular bit, but they pressed the wrong button on the machine and then it dropped, and Jane Seymour almost fell off to like 30 feet to her death. And Roger Moore caught her and saved her, Admittedly, he caught her by her hair, which probably hurt a lot, but like kept her from falling
Mhm.
30 feet, breaking every bone in her body. So Roger Moore, boom.
I think I think other than the stunt people, she was in the most danger of this entire production because like she was actually in the bus, the double decker bus, when he was doing the skid thing, like because they just showed it behind the scenes. Like there was no reason for her to still be in the back of
Which is
that.
a great stunt.
You're real, like you see like a silhouette of a girl in the back, but you don't really see her. So they could have had a dummy in there, and you wouldn't have known. But it was her, and they did that spin like 5 times. Like, why is she in the back? And then she was also in the back when the guy drove onto the bridge and the top turned off, ripped off. So she was like in the most danger of this entire production. It's like, why? That's crazy. What else happened? The boat sequences that didn't go too well. Sometimes a lot of people got injured, but they were determined to get that boat sequence.
All of it.
Yeah.
They could have cut half of that boat chase.
Yeah.
So, like there's some really good bits in that, like when it's going on land. But and it's like kicking up all the mud. It's really cool. But it's so long. It's like we've only got one big action scene in this movie, so let's just make it endless.
Yeah. Yep. So then now, I guess the last thing we can talk about is there's another train battle with Teehee, which as a henchman he turned out to be the final boss. There's a little twist on the trope there. So they had a fight in the train, just like From Russia with Love.
Yep.
Yeah. But I guess From Russia with Love was, you would say, is a better train fight.
I mean, yeah. I mean, Guy Hamilton, like it's actually a perfect example of not just Guy Hamilton, but also, even though I love him to death, Roger Moore at the hand-to-hand stuff was never as kinetic. Although, you know, it's not necessarily his fault. It's just, you know, different editors and second unit directors. You know, like, I feel like Peter Hunt could cut a fight scene between Pee Wee Herman and Natasha Bedingfield, and it would be like high octane, amazing. I don't know why I used those two.
Yeah, that was some random. I haven't heard Natasha Bedingfield's name in a long time.
Yeah, she was in From Russia with Love.
Oh, okay.
The video game.
Oh.
Yeah, true story.
Are we talking about the singer, right? Tell me away. Okay.
She's in that game. She's
Wow.
like a new Bond girl.
Nice.
And it's great because like she has like flirty, sexy dialogue with Bond, and it's like it looks like Sean Connery in the '60s, but it's got the voice of 80-year-old Sean Connery, and it's like, yeah.
Okay.
I like the way we look at any of these Bond girls today, and it's just like it would be an honor. I can't, you know, I imagine that someone would look at Sean Connery today and just be like, it would be an honor.
Yeah.
Like neither of us will probably enjoy this, but it would be an honor.
Yeah.
I'll get the blue chew. But yeah, so that fight is fine. I think that at this stage, you know, Roger Moore will have much better fight scenes moving forward. Even in Man with the Golden Gun, he's got a pretty good brawl, but in Spy Who Loved Me really kicks it up a notch. But here, you know, he's mostly hired on his looks and having been the Saint, the TV show, the 60s. I don't know if it went back to the 50s. Probably not. Maybe? I don't know. But
is that what the Val Kilmer movie was based on?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Roger Moore even had a cameo in that.
Right.
He played like the car or something, or the voice on the radio. But a lot of people, you know, never kind of accepted him as Bond, especially older people. If you talk to old people about Bond, they'll say, "Oh, I love Sean Connery. I don't love Roger Moore." Well, why don't you love Roger Moore? It's because he's the Saint. Because you can't, you know, I can't accept him as Bond when he's the Saint. Kind of like other older people who are less old will be like, "Oh, I can't accept, you know, Pierce Brosnan. You know, he's Remington Steele. You know, he's not Bond. They hired him because he's Remington Steele." And it's like, yeah, but then the generation who doesn't know about those likes him as Bond. It's one of those you kind of have to let go of the baggage.
Yeah.
And some people find that Roger Moore just had too much baggage. Even though I love him. I love them all.
So Cavill might come under that pressure as well if he becomes Bond. It's like, but I know him as Superman. Or if Witcher does well, but I know him as the Witcher. Well, he's kind of going through that with Witcher now. It's like Superman as Witcher. Let's see.
Yeah, but like the fact that he did Man from U.N.C.L.E. and Mission Impossible.
Yeah, Mission.
It's just like he wants it.
Yeah, he
wants that Bond role.
He was dope.
He's gonna get it. He's getting it.
Yeah.
He's got. I think that everyone has like their eyes on the prize of whatever role they want to get.
Mm-hmm.
I think at the top of that pyramid for Henry
Mm-hmm.
is Bond.
Well, technically, the top of his pyramid was Geralt. He went after The Witcher.
That's true. Yeah, he did pursue that. Yeah,
but
people were like, "Oh, why is this beneath him?" And it's like, well, not if he wants it.
Yeah, if he wants it, but then I guess Bond was another thing too. If he went after it and lost out to Craig.
Yeah, Martin Campbell. He was the first choice.
Yeah.
For Casino Royale, and but the Broccolis wanted. They said he was too. Not the Broccolis at that point.
Yeah.
But Barbara Broccoli said he was too young.
Mm-hmm.
Which doesn't make sense considering that's the whole point of the movie. Whatever, I'm not bitter. Would you rather have this beautiful and handsome young man, or the Thing from Fantastic Four? What it looks like.
And then Craig end up not. Well, has there been a Bond who just like not started shit talking the role like when he's on his way out?
Yeah, they all do that. Well, Pierce.
Cause Connery did. Did Roger Moore do it?
Roger Moore is the only one who's allowed to retire.
Yeah.
He was just like, I did it until I got too old to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I stopped.
Yeah, Timothy didn't do it.
So hard. Yeah, Timothy did because like there was whole, the Bond was just in flux
Yeah.
in the early 90s.
Mm-hmm.
When bankruptcies or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually not 100% sure of how that story plays out.
And he only
one of the biggest gaps, 6 years.
Yeah, and he only did 2.
Yeah. And Pierce didn't find out that he got replaced until he read it in the trades, they say.
Oh, okay.
So he was bitter about that. I'm sure he's over it by now.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that he deserved a swan song, a chance to go out
Mm-hmm.
with a grand finale movie of his own.
Right.
Not that any actor really gets a grand finale movie, but I think that he wasn't done.
Mm-hmm.
He had more to give to the role.
Yeah. So I guess Craig will be the only one who gets a send off. Well, other than.
Man, it can't come soon enough.
Yeah.
I love them all. They're great. Whatever.
He's gonna get he's actually gonna get a send off because I know, like, I'm sure they're crafting this movie as if it was not the last Bond movie, but just his last movie. Like they're gonna give like some sort of swan song to him or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
I'm very excited, very nervous, but I can't wait to see what happens.
Yeah. All right, so we talked enough about living it down. Bring. Yeah, that's a good song, man. I like that song. The next one is gonna be what? Man from the Golden Gun. Oh, Man with the Golden Gun. I actually don't like that song. I don't like that song.
It's Lulu, man. To Serve with Love.
It sounds.
Sidney Poitier. He could have been the first black Bond.
Oh yeah, wasn't there a talk about that? No, was there?
For real?
I think so. I
I
don't know.
just pulled that out because of To Serve with Love, but that would have been cool, maybe.
Yeah, but I don't like that song though. It was just, yeah. But yeah, so that's the next movie. Hopefully it's better than this one. Hopefully they go back to 235. Maybe.
Yeah, we'll see.
We'll see. But yeah, like bringing it back. I think Roger Moore for his first Bond movie. I think he managed to like. I like the confidence in him. I guess he plays more of not a gruff Bond like Sean did, but more of like a ladies' man, I guess.
He's more chill.
Yeah, yeah,
He's more of a 9 to 5 Bond.
yeah.
It's like I'd rather be, banging maids and drinking scotch. But,
Yeah.
I gotta save the world, so let's go do it.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, let's see how his tenure as Bond proceeds as the films goes on. All right. So that brings us to the end. You can hit that subscribe button, hit the like, hit that notification bell, drop some comments down below. You can find me on Facebook at Pop Culture Galaxy and Twitter at Marky Tundra, as well as Instagram at Pop Culture Galaxy. Where can they reach you at?
Find me on Twitter at my name, Zach Wojner, and you can read my work at screenrant.com.
Alright. So until next time, folks, I want to say peace.
Indeed.
Yeah.